All right, the hot topic today on Friday's episode of Morning Kick Around. Earlier in the week, we had a conversation. What clubs should populate the USL's D1 in their first year of existence? And we listed off a provisional 12 teams. And that video got a lot of reaction, a lot of comment, a lot of folks agreeing with our selections, but plenty, throwing in their 2 cents of who we might have missed, and maybe some teams that we've put in there. Some folks disagreed. The MK Ultra community, thank you for chiming in a big way. Plenty to agree and disagree with us on that.
Yeah, let's. So great comments, and it's still going. So if you haven't seen that video, go back and watch our picks for the first 12 D1 teams in the USL League set to launch their plan in 2026-27. I think for the purpose of this, we should review who we picked, right? We should tell people who we picked so that then they can say, well, that's wrong, right? And that's what we're going to get to with the comments from the Ultras. Louisville, Phoenix, Sacramento, Tampa, San Antonio, Indianapolis, Rhode Island, Colorado Springs, Las Vegas, Oakland, Miami, and North Carolina. That's what we came to. That was we had some vetoes in there. I think I suggested a couple, and you're like, I don't know if that's good enough. I don't know if they're strong enough. Obviously, the thing that makes this hard is that you're always kind of getting to a place where there's one thing about a club that makes it harder to put them in a lot of cases, right? It's a stadium situation. It is, again, the financial strength of the club, right? Kind of their backing. Maybe it's the size of the market, but that's not always a case, because I think we really don't have an issue with hitting the million mark in enough cities. So as I was, when we get into the comments here, Rob, it is a lot about that. It's like, well, on merit, who belongs in? Or why are you forgetting about this big city? But then again, it's sort of like everybody's subjective measure of what matters. So here are the Ultras comments on this video that we did with our 12. We've got right here, hard pressed not to have Union Omaha worthy as of top tier. Union Omaha is obviously done a little bit of work building their community. I love their badge. I've got a Union Omaha shirt that I wear on a regular basis on the show. Their stadium situation is still not to the level of 15,000. Maybe there's a waiver to be had there, but I don't know. Do you think, again, they're a League One club, Rob? We had no League One cities in our top 12.
Yeah, that's an interesting omission. Should we have been thinking, within existing teams at the League One level a little bit more? We did shout out Ford Madison as a possibility. They've done really well with their community building, but you said that maybe Madison doesn't ring to you like a first division.
Well, but that's the thing. Like,
market.
I get the reaction of it shouldn't matter. Like, it shouldn't matter if you have a massive market, and I don't know what Madison's population is. Although we had a very good comment. I'm not sure if I can find it, but with a very good comment from somebody said that here it is. It's actually right here. Dave.
Well done.
It says only 9 of 12 initial clubs need to be in a metro market of 1 million or more, right? Which we did say that on the video. 75% of the 12 have to be in a market of 1 million or more per U.S. Soccer's PLS, which again, we're acknowledging that the PLS are a little mushy, a little wonky. Saying it should be noted, as written, the rule is necessarily vague, as metropolitan market isn't defined by what standard they would use to measure it. That opens up some more areas of opportunity. So after 2 years, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, is it sort of the combined statistical area as defined by the United States government? Is it some other measure of what that is? Like, what is the measure? That is a thing, right? So maybe, and Omaha, I believe, meets the 1 million person criteria, the 1 million population criteria. It's also, again, with stadiums, Jeff, Union Omaha has a stadium coming. All right. I have a cynic's view of stadium building in America on a, general level.
For good reason.
I mean, look, plenty of stadiums have gotten built, but a plan does not make a stadium. A plan is just a plan. A plan is cheap to put together. Words are cheap. And there are lots of hurdles that they need to get over.
But the
So
renderings, Jason.
I love a rendering. I love a rendering. All right. So we didn't include Pittsburgh either, right? Oh no, Pittsburgh did make it. I don't remember. Pittsburgh made it.
I know we were going back and forth on it. We got accused of utter woke nonsense for not including them, so we might
We
have
did
gotten
not.
bullied to putting them in. Maybe no.
We did not. We did not include Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is an interesting one, and here the comment says Pittsburgh has 3 phases going on to expand their stadium to 15,000.
That'd be cool.
If that's true, obviously that puts Pittsburgh in a different category in terms of possibly being in that 12. And we're not bumping anybody. And again, in year 3, you're supposed to be a 14 anyway. So, that is a thing. There are also some comments in here about, stadiums need not be soccer stadiums, right? They just have to be 15,000 capacity. It's why we even considered some teams or markets, I guess, that I don't know you would immediately think of if you were just doing by market size or marketing reach, which again, as purists, as soccer fans, that's not always our first concern. But I saw Birmingham mentioned.
Yeah.
What do you think about Birmingham, Robert?
Well, I mean, they do have a large stadium, and there isn't a whole lot of professional sports in that area. So I feel like if done well, I think that could be successful. I think that's definitely one worth consideration. I don't think that's like Birmingham's necessarily a city that you'd emblazon on the marquee for anything. I don't know if anyone's going to go, wow, Birmingham's got a team. But if they're good and they have a stadium that heats his standards and they're filling it up, then why not? There's not a lot of argument against it other than like the perception of what that city is.
Right.
But
right.
if they earned it, then why the heck not?
Yeah. Look, the fairest way. Okay. The most, I guess fairest is the only word I can think of, right? The way that connects with what we want when we think about pro rel in our country, which again, we are kind of going on this premise that USL is going to launch a first division and they're going to connect it with the other leagues and we will have pro rel. There's no guarantee of that, but they're talking about it, right? So we're imagining, we're dreaming, we dare to dream, American soccer fans. So we're daring to dream that there will be a 12 team first division. At least, again, you have to have 12. They could do more. They could choose to do more, but you have to have 12. So let's start with that. Who are the 12? You're supposed to get to 14 in year 3. Now, what you could do, obviously, is start with 12 and then have 2 teams over the next 2 years promoted into the first division. So you reach 14 by year 3, right? That is, you are not in control of what markets you put in your division if you're worried about the commercial strength of your first division, if you're USL. So that's a thing, right? In American soccer, that's a thing. We just watched a video about the history of American soccer. It's so tied into money and capitalism and sort of being, you have to consider those things or you risk collapsing. You could do that, right? You could have teams promoted and then not have any relegation. And then once you get to 14, try to figure out what your plan is going to be. And here's something. This is from one of the comments. I'm a Brooklynite, King Coheed 1208. I'm a Brooklynite who's very excited for Brooklyn FC to play men's soccer in Brooklyn. I don't think they will be in the first 12 to 14, but I do think they will get there before 20 D1 teams, which obviously USL could try to grow to 20. I'm thinking you'll see Brooklyn there by 2032. This one's interesting to me because we don't have, as you think about it, we really don't have any markets. And New York is huge, right? Yeah. 14 million people, should be plenty of space for this. We don't have any combined MLS USL markets. Not really. You could argue at Orange County, I guess, in California. You could toss them in there. I mean, who else am I missing maybe? You've got Oakland. That's up the road from San Jose. I suppose you could argue that. I guess. That would be interesting to see a USL championship team or USL Division 1 team rather, Premier or whatever, existing miles away ultimately from the Queens-based NYCFC or across the river from the Red Bulls.
This conversation has me really puts in perspective like What an interesting time, and like it feels like we're at the start of something here. There has been a lot of work in the last 5-10 years to get, there's these teams that, there's a lot of stadium plans, and I feel like we're on the cusp of like having a real like base to work on. Like we're shouting out a lot of exciting teams, and like this team could be, but there's a lot of caveats, if, ands, and buts. And I was a little harsh on Detroit saying they may not be a year one D1, but with those plans in place, in 5 years, they might be a completely different club and like have a brand new soccer specific stadium
Yeah.
and, be a shoe in to be a division. And there's so many different teams that are like, well, if this one other thing is added, then they're legit and this and that. And it just seems like by the time we get to that World Cup 2032 that the Brooklyn I mentioned, this whole landscape could be completely different. But like we've seen in the past, like the video we watched in the previous segment about, competing leagues burning each other out and falling apart. Like I feel like we're at some sort of a tipping point. Like, are we going to spill over and actually have this groundwork and this foundation for a structure? Or does, a big ruling or the sanctioning not happen or something like, or these stadium plans don't come to fruition and this
Yeah.
kind of fizzles out? I feel like we're at a very unique time, an exciting time. There's a lot to hypothesize about in this moment, but we'll see where we are in like 4 years. This landscape
Yeah.
is in the midst of a very, I don't know if it's a delicate situation, but definitely we're on the edge of something here.
Yeah, I mean, you get into you kind of get into a place where you start talking about individual teams and their viability, sort of individual viability. But as a league, if there are enough teams, I mean, you could imagine some teams might struggle a bit. But what you hope for, what we want to get to, is that when teams struggle, they don't die.
Yeah.
Right? When teams struggle, maybe that means, I mean, in a fair, in a fair sporting merit way, that would mean relegation if you're struggling. And then maybe that doesn't necessarily mean you die if that league is strong enough, if you're still, revenue streams are still there. Again, I think this is untested in the way that it is untested. Like clearly it's untested that if a team goes down, what happens next? What happens to their fan base? What happens to the interest in town? What happens to the money? What happens to the interest on the ownership's part? Right now, again, let me tie us back to a conversation we had last week and a video you can watch, which is our conversation with Peter Wilt. And Peter Wilt advocates for community ownership, not just because it'd be nice and it's romantic, but because that would be a guard against a club collapsing because the millionaire, who's the major backer per PLS, is the guy who gets to decide whether the woman gets to decide whether the club exists or not anymore. Oh, it's just a bad business. I'm pulling out. Oh, there's no more money. Shut it down. Like now we've got a dead club that we add to the graveyard when nobody wants that. Obviously there will always be financial pressures, even with community ownership. But if you have community ownership, there's a chance that you'll be able to kind of ride those waves because now you don't have a straight up businessman just making a business decision without having a connection to the club and the market. So that's what I'm hoping. And so, USL is proposing an idea that is untested, and it gets into this thing about, okay, on the top, and it's very easy to imagine populating a 12-team league, a 14-team league, a 20-team league even, if you throw Detroit and Brooklyn and some of these other markets in there. But it's the down the bottom end, and then what happens next, those clubs, and sort of what does it look like to be a championship team when there's a division above you? Or what does it look like to be a League One team when there are two divisions above you? Or you've been a championship team and now you're a League One team. Those things are completely untested.
Yeah, American soccer trying to build the down. They built top down, and we're in the age where that bottom definitely needs to get built up. Working backwards here in American soccer, we shall see. There's a brief idea that I wanted to just float out there. We can come back to it another time. But with some teams being way ahead of each other, maybe if a lower league team earns a promotion, maybe they can kind of like have that promotion credit for a couple years until they raise their levels and maybe get the stadiums and stuff in general. So that could get messy, but maybe something like a promotion credit, if they like earn it on the field, maybe they can have like a 3 to 5 year window to get their PLS stuff in order and then accept that promotion.
That's interesting. I mean, obviously that doesn't, it gets real wonky scheduling, all that stuff, trying to be, but there does need to be we have to be creative, and these leagues need to be creative. These businesses, right? Because that's what ultimately we're talking about, need to be creative in the way that they try. I mean, look, in England, what do we talk about all the time when a team goes down? There's a parachute payment, right? You get a payment that helps you absorb the damage done to your bottom line. And, that sometimes results in yo-yo clubs, and I don't love that, but that's still better than the idea that,
Dying.
especially here, a club drops down, revenue craters for whatever reason, right? It may not be attendance. There are some people in the chat that are saying attendance probably wouldn't be all that affected, right? Now, in this case, what Ewan is saying is that if you go up to D1 when you've been a championship side, if you go back to the championship, okay, whatever, we were already there. Who really cares? But there may be some teams for if you are truly doing pro rel through 3 divisions, teams that go from the championship to League One who really do have problems. And this is it, right? Revenue sharing across all 3 pro divisions. Now, revenue sharing is a double-edged sword in the sense that, yes, it can help save some teams, maybe prevent clubs from having to shut down. It softens a blow, but there will be owners who see that as a get-out-of-jail-free card, right? And basically say, well, why do I need to put a lot of money into this to try to go up? Why do I need to be ambitious? Especially when the margins are thin and it's hard to prove that just because you start winning or win a title or move up, you're going to make more money or grow. And again, some of this is, are the owners in it to make money? Are they in it for the real estate play? Are they in it to just run a soccer club, be connected to the community, and do it like we want them to do it?
Thank you, MK Ultras, for contributing to this conversation. We're at a truly interesting time in our game, in our country, so we'll keep that going, and thanks for contributing to the conversation. If you haven't already, Morning Kick Around on the YouTube, be the very next subscriber. We'll have to do something fun to celebrate us reaching that goal. We'll come back next week with something fun. We're going to post the poll for the naming of the Morning Kick Around Rooster. Which one of your the selections is your favorite? Peckshay, David Peckham, Marco Rooster, or Franz Peckenpower? Have your say. And we'll come back to that next week and see who the Morning Kicker Around Rooster will be. All right, thanks for tuning in. We will see you on Monday. Until then, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.